This is the District 2 Sports Podcast with your hosts, Gregory, Devin, and Big G, your voice for local sports in Southern Virginia. You can listen to this episode and hundreds of others on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Give us a like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
They're not in my top 12. They're not in my top 12. I told y'all. They're not.
Big G got his teams in and they all lost last week. So,
how did you get that? I got two teams in and one of them lost.
I need to throw one more shout out. I got a shout out to my little guy over there on the left, little Dev.
The spreadsheet is back out, and it's back.
Oh, you have one for basketball.
I got one for basketball.
Yes.
Really? You're not for Spurs? Okay. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Whoa,
So now
man,
we're going hot now. It's going hot.
For anybody listening tonight, or anybody paying attention, if y'all don't know, the mob is in the NFL.
Not a fan? Not a fan of the lo-fi?
That music was atrocious.
That was weak. I did not.
That was the first thing I wrote down. As soon as it started, I put, not crazy about this.
All right, so District 2 Sports Podcast, and we're back with another episode. And today we are joined by the newly appointed head coach of the William Fleming Colonels football program, Coach Zack Leonard. Coach, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you got something to say, Big G, off the get-go?
I think I wanted to get the biggest question out of the way right off the get-go. How many death threats have you gotten so far from the Patrick Henry folks for coming back to William Fleming? I mean, are we on radar now? You got people outside the house guarding the street or what?
Nothing that serious. I did see Thought made a comment. Man, first he left us and went to Blacksburg. I'm like, PH had a head coach, so.
I love that. Well, Coach, I mean, you see the weather outside. It's raining. It's been nasty last week or so. Do you guys get out here and still condition in the rain and get ready for the season, or do y'all stay inside most of the time for conditions like this?
Well, we've actually been really lucky. So we've been working out in the mornings, and we've kind of got a rotation basis. Half the group's in the weight room, half the group's on the field, and we all finish on the field. And we've had some damp fields, but that's about as bad as it's gotten. So that threw us inside one day. We're kind of limited on where we can practice this year because they're doing some work on our track. So I didn't want to. One day it was bad enough where I said, hey, let's not destroy our practice field before we even get started. We have a beautiful facility. I mean, we're very lucky with a lot of space. And I was like, well, let's take care of it. We can get some board work in. And, it's one of those things like we got sent inside. And then after the fact, I realized, man, this is probably the most important thing we could have done that day. It really made a lot of things click for our guys. It was good.
Well, the dead period ended a few weeks ago, I think, 1st of July. What has workouts looked like so far in regard to the effort and just the numbers you're seeing out there for participation?
Well, it's been fantastic. So we got started, basically the day I was announced, they were ending school that next week or so. So we jumped right in on a Thursday, had our first day. And you could see, after that first day, a lot of people just felt better about the entire situation. Coaches, they don't know what to expect. Players, they don't know what to expect. So you could just see a lot of tension kind of release at the end of that. And they're like, hey, all right, we're good to go. And ever since then, it's just gotten better and better. We've had great numbers. So right now we've got a phenomenal middle school coach, Coach Ferg. They were probably one of the best middle school teams in the past 2 decades in this area, honestly, last year. Incredible. Lots of good ninth graders coming up. They've been working out at the same time as us. So they started off the summer with about 30. I think yesterday they had 43 out there. We started out with about probably 22 on JV, 22-ish on varsity, and we both were over 30 yesterday. So we hit over 100 players out there yesterday for the first time. So, just continue. Progress has been huge.
Coach, we talked to another coach the other day at a smaller school, and maybe he sees the effects of it more. But have you seen participation in football just kind of decrease over the years? And is it kind of mitigated being at a school like William Fleming where you're, at the higher population-wise?
Oh, man, that is the question in my opinion. And I have seen it. I think what we've actually seen is You cannot coach football like it's the 1980s anymore. And I don't necessarily think they were doing it the right way then, to be honest with you. I think they were getting away with it because people love football so much. It's 2026. Our guys have so many things that they can be active in. I mean, which is great, right? We got clubs, we've got all sorts of sports opportunities. These kids can find things that they can be successful with. So to answer your question, every single year I've been a head coach, we've ended the season with more players than we did the year before. And I think that starts with treating people really, really well. And that starts with me and how I treat my assistant coaches, right? I invest in them. I try to grow them through responsibilities. I treat them very well, and they do the same thing for our players. So I think when you do the right things, your numbers continue to grow.
I want to take it back to you came from Blacksburg, like you just mentioned, former Patriot, but came from Blacksburg, coached there for 4 years. I want to go over get your thoughts on these records right here: 2-10, 2-8, 4-6, 5-6 in a playoff appearance. How much of a grind was that for you? Getting to a program I think had lost, however many straight, to building a program that went to the playoffs last year.
It was hard. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's a grind. I think it took a big investment from everybody involved. If I tried to tell you that I had some magic thing that happened to improve over time, I can't. I just tried to show up, do the right thing, build relationships, and I was surrounded by a great football staff. And it's one of those things. Like every single number you just mentioned, I had higher expectations. I don't know if that's just part of being a football coach, being optimistic. Like nobody feels great about any of those numbers, to be honest with you. We are excited about the progress that we had, and I'm really proud of that group and the relationships we built. But last season we lost 3 games by less than a touchdown. We lost a game that we were leading at one point in the fourth quarter, and we were really close to being a 9-1 football team. And to me, we attacked this past offseason. I didn't know I was leaving until far into the offseason, right? So we attacked it. I think you've got a lot of choices in those moments. You can look at it and you can say, hey, that's just part of the growth process. Hey, we're a young football team. We lost some really close games. Or you can say, hey, we've got to look at this and figure out what's going wrong. And that's what we decided to do. And we were attacking this offseason. So, in a lot of ways, I'm that to invest and to be where I live and the community I live in was too huge to pass up. I mean, I'm really excited to be here.
He muted me and now he's unmuted me. So thank you, Greg. So, Coach, I believe, and I could be mistaken, I believe that you were on the lower end of the 29-game losing streak. So, just kind of getting the feel when you win that game and break that streak. What's it like on that sideline? What's it like for you at home when you get there?
I'm very lucky. So at home, it was the same as it's been the entire time, right? I think I'm very lucky. I have a wife who knows that I'm passionate about what I do, but when I come home, I'm Zack. You know what I mean? And I get to live as normal of a life as possible. So not a whole lot different there, to be honest with you. But man, the interesting thing about Blacksburg is I was the defensive coordinator at Christiansburg right before that. And we started that losing streak. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but we had a heck of a defensive game plan and limited them offensively. And no offense to anybody, but they were the more athletic football team. I mean, they had some guys that could run and could scoot still. So then 2 years later, to take over that program and to jump in and eventually, it took a lot of work, but to eventually get that first win at Floyd County that year, I mean, it was a huge moment. I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't tell you. I go back and look at this video somebody made of our breakdown right at the end of that game, and it's an emotional, special moment. I mean, it's a big one.
Coach, were you exactly a glutton for punishment at that point in time? I mean, or did you take pride in building the program? I mean, was it one of those things where, it's not necessarily a sprint, it's a marathon? I mean, is it kind of that kind of deal?
Yeah. Honestly, it's just who I want to be as a football coach, to be honest with you. I got to Christiansburg High School with Alex Wilkins. They had won one game the year before when we got there. And the cupboard was bare. You know what I mean? Like I think they've got a lot of good things in that community that makes them a football community. But at the high school level, like, we had a lot of work to do when we got there. And in 5 years, we flipped that program and went on a 11-2 run, played for a region championship, lost a heartbreaker to Botetourt on basically the last play of the game. I mean, that's just who I want to be. And just to tell you a little bit about me, I went to PH. And during that time, I think most people would probably call those the dark times of PH. We had a heck of a schedule, and I had 4 different head coaches. So I had one head coach my 8th grade year, and then 3 different ones throughout my high school year. And I'm looking at guys. I mean, we had a guy on our football team, Chris Martin. He was ranked nationally in triple jump. He's still one of the best athletes I've ever been around. And I'm looking at the guys I'm playing with, and I'm like, man, what's going on differently? And that's really what I knew. I always want to be a coach, but that's what's kind of motivated me to build programs and the difference a well-run program can have on a community and the kids involved. It's my motivation for sure.
Well, Coach, I want to ask you, going back to last year, you guys start off 2-0. Then the next 4 games you lose. Maybe previous Blacksburg teams would just mail it in. We're 2-4. Hey, the season's over with. Nothing we can do about it now. Whatever. But you guys won 3 straight and kind of secure your bid into the playoffs. How much went into those 4 years of changing the culture and changing the minds of those players?
A lot. I think it's got to be the focus, right? And I know a lot of people talk about it. My definition of culture is how we do things, right? And honestly, that first year's group physically probably had a little bit more talent than the next year that we won 2 games, but we weren't able to run effective practices because of some of our culture issues, arguing, not feeling like real teammates. And just to watch that progress that happened pretty quickly. Year 2, we really made some sacrifices to the varsity to really help getting the winning culture on the JV group. I mean, there were some guys who probably could have helped us on the varsity level, but like our culture up there still wasn't right. So we actively took an investment and said, hey, let's let these guys play down as much as possible. In fact, we had one sophomore play up that year. He's graduating this year. So in my banquet, we kind of talked about that. We said, hey, that's the one guy we didn't protect. And we had to throw him in on offensive line, and he took a bunch of beatings, to be honest with you. But, that investment was huge, and they developed a winning culture. They went winning 1 JV game the year before to 7 that second year, competing with some really good football teams. And those are the decisions that are hard to make, but the head guy's got to make those things and decide what's best for our program as a whole. But even that second year, I mean, I think we played hard the entire season, but, it definitely got better and better as we went. That type of work ethic, that toughness that we developed over time was great. I wish I could come in and just magically change those kind of things immediately, but that has not been my experience so far. It takes time to build that.
Well, Coach, I was going to ask you, I know that, you've been in that rebuild mode or build mode. What are the nerves like right now coming somewhere to where, the school is, they're perennial playoff makers. They're usually there in the hunt or whatever. So does that put any added pressure on you at all for this year?
I think it all depends on how you look at pressure. I told everybody if I ever get told I did a good job after another 5-6 team, I think I'm going to be sick. That's not what I'm looking for, right? I want pressure. I want high expectations. But at the same time, the interesting part is there's some similarities to the program. So I don't know how well versed you are with JV football, but they were struggling number-wise on JV the past couple of years. We graduated 22 seniors, right? This is a brand new group. We've got about 5 guys who've played meaningful football, but we have a lot of talent, right? Like I'll tell you, just looking at our running back room or our DB room, our wide receivers, I mean, we got some guys with a lot of talent. Now, the difference between a talented guy who underperforms and a skilled football player is coaching and getting those reps in and being able to master certain techniques. So that's what our focus has been on, and developing that camaraderie as a team as well. So, we've got a tough schedule. I know you've seen it. We're going to show up, fight, and get better every day. I mean, it's just what we do.
Well, I was going to ask you, that was going to be my next kind of question that, I know the schedules I get it that there's different levels of classifications of football. I get that. But, I've always been that proponent. If you're good, you're good. So I guess what I was going to ask you was, how much of a difference, or do you cringe when you see that schedule? I mean, the one that I automatically, besides your district or your region games, the one that automatically jumps out at me is Varina, which, me and my younger son Devin, we saw in the state championship game 2 years ago, and they're phenomenal. I mean, they're just athletic at every position. They're big, they're strong, and it's just amazing what the offense and defense they run. Is just like, I hate to say it this way, but at times it looks like it's men against boys. So just kind of throwing it out there too.
Absolutely. You're going to think I'm crazy, but I've watched a whole bunch of film and I just get excited watching that film. You want to play great opponents. Athletically, they're incredible, but I think the difference is they execute at an incredibly high level. I mean, that quarterback is a special young man. Watching the film from last year, it looked like pitch and catch for him. So we're going to really do our best to try to clean up some things and get our guys ready for a big game. But, we want to play in big football games. So you got to jump out there and do it, right? They've had some really good ones. For instance, they played Highland Springs last year, had a great game. Well, guess what? We ran into Highland Springs, Fleming last year, right? We want to play those caliber teams to get ready for the playoffs. And I know there's another team you want to talk about too, Greg.
That's awesome. I love that. Coach, I'm going to step in real quick before he gets into that. But we talked to Coach Fiddler and we talked to Coach Leftwich last year about that scheduling. Like, you can play the teams in your area, but I'm not saying anything about the area or region teams or the players, but it's just different playing the Richmond area teams. Is that something you're going to continue doing throughout the years, is scheduling those teams that you might face in 5C as far as the playoffs goes?
I sure hope so. Scheduling is tough. We just finished up the next cycle. My plan is I always jump in at, Quest is going to see me in January of the in between the next cycle, because that's when I think you should get started. When I got hired, it's nobody's fault. I mean, it's a transition period for me and the athletic director. But to me, it felt like we were a hair late. So at that point, I'm just trying to finish out a schedule. But I do think as a 5A program in this part of the state, you have to be very specific about what you're looking for in your out of district stuff, right? It is what it is. We have 3 5A teams in our area, and they're in 2 separate districts. Right. So that makes it a little bit tough. So now I have to use one of my out of district games to play PH every single year. Whereas if we could I don't know if there's any way to make that one district like it used to be the Western. Well, yeah, I think Fleming joined the Western Valley District a little after I got out of high school. That type of district would allow us to have even more big time games where we're going. Now, I say all of that, I'm not trying to take anything away from the local teams. There's some good football in Southwest Virginia, and I know y'all have seen that. But it is nice to be able to challenge, to find those Richmond teams, those other big 5A teams, to get you ready for the playoffs.
Coach, I wanted to take it back. Going from Blacksburg, you say you finished up the season. Of course, Nick Leftwich leaves to go to Botetourt. The job opens up. What made you put your hat in it? And as a former Patriot, we kind of talked about this a little bit, something before when we first started. Was there any hesitation to kind of applying for the job there at Fleming?
That's a good question. I think there's always hesitation, right? And this showed me even more so. But, all of the relationships you've built should always be counted as an asset to the job you're at. Does that make sense? Like, I've had great relationships. We've set up systems. We've set up routines. Those are all assets that you kind of forget about when you're looking at taking over a new job, right? So you're starting over there. I never want to do it again, to be honest with you, because it's just starting completely from scratch. I really believe in developing coaching staffs and getting on the same page, and there's no way to rush that, right? Like, that trust has to be built over time. So I don't ever want to do that again. But to be 100% honest with you, there was only 2 jobs I was ever going to leave Blacksburg for, and that was either one of the jobs in Roanoke City. I'm very excited and very lucky to be at William Fleming.
Well, Coach, I want to Coach, you do get the job there at William Fleming. Of course, you have your first team meeting. What was that conversation like? And what were some maybe the non-negotiables that were established that day too?
Honestly, we didn't talk a whole lot about that. I wanted to get them to know me a little bit. And I really just talked about how, we're going to build these relationships over time. I mentioned earlier in the podcast, like, there's nothing I can say in those moments for them to know exactly who I am. Honestly, there had been rumors about who the head coach was and all this stuff going around. And I think they could probably look at my resume in terms of a record and have some questions about it. And I get that, right? I stand by my work. I think we did a great job in Blacksburg and we showed progress every year. And I would have loved to be able to have that time to really get all the way over the hump and finish that turnaround completely. I have every bit of faith in Coach Reese over at Blacksburg. He's gonna finish what we started together. I'm really proud of that. But I told them I'm here to make William Fleming one of the best schools in 5A football, right? I really believe in Roanoke City. I believe in William Fleming. I think we can, chase our potential, work every day. And when we get this number situation right, investing in the right type of habits and who we want to be in the future, I think Fleming can be right there up at the top year in, year out.
Coach, if it wouldn't have been Roanoke or if it wouldn't have been Fleming, would you have made the move?
No, not at all. I would have been at Blacksburg a long time. I was waiting to be able to get back to where I grew up, where I played rec football, and I really wanted to invest in the people that remind me of where I come from. It was just coming back home for me.
Well, I think a special game did actually get skipped over, probably by myself, because I paid attention to one team and I forgot the other one. I don't know how I did that, but so I see that there's a big game, maybe fourth or fifth week on the shores of the Dan River, and I don't know. Have you looked at any film at those guys of yet? And I'm not, as you well know, I'm an Eagle and have been, graduate, but I made a fatal mistake last year, and I got to tell you right off the get-go, I made a fatal mistake. GW gets whipped. I mean, whipped by Reidsville right off the get-go. And I'm sure Gregory has probably got it on reels somewhere where I made the comment, GW's in trouble. This whooping is going to lead them to nowhere, no playoff appearance, no nothing. They don't lose till they get beat by Jefferson Forest in the region finals. So just, have you looked at any film? I know that I've already said in 4A that they would probably be playing somebody, I forget, Jefferson Forest again in the region finals. So, have you looked that far ahead?
I'm a film guy, so we played GW, that playoff game at Blacksburg. Nick was nice enough to let me get the film. I had about every one of GW's film. They're a phenomenal football team, right? I'm proud of our effort in that game. We really gave them a half, and we're right on the goal line of making it 14-14. And football happens, and it got out of hand after that. But obviously, Nick has done a great job down there at GW. Nick Anderson, right? He's done a phenomenal job at GW. They've got that two-headed monster at running back is incredible. Both those guys went for over 1,000 yards last year. Great football team. I'm excited for the opportunity. Like I said, I love playing in big games. I think we have some incredibly talented young men. I think we've got, I had my 5 offensive linemen out there the other day, and I'm looking at them. I'm like, hey, this is exciting. We've got a lot of things to be excited for, and I can't wait to play those games. I grew up against playing GW every year. They were in the Western Valley District with me, and it was always fun. Great football. It's going to be a great atmosphere. I think we go to GW this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
Their new field is incredible. I love the atmosphere. It was great stuff.
We've talked about Verona, we've talked about GW, and what can we expect? What is Coach Leonard's? If it's not a secret, if you got to keep it in, I guess we'll have to live with it. But what can we expect from the William Fleming offense and the William Fleming defense?
Honestly, there's a lot of similarities from Fleming the past couple of years. We will run a version of the 4-2-5, 4-4 defense. Now, I don't know how many details you got, but they would walk up into an under front. That outside linebacker, he'd walk up to the line of scrimmage a lot. We'll play more traditional overhangs. Offensively, we will run power just like they've been the past couple of years. Our power just looks a little different. We've got our own spin on power. I think Nick's is very similar to old school Salem style power. Ours is a little bit different, but we're going to run the rock, take easy yardage. We've been able to be successful as an offense at Blacksburg. And, I can't help when we're doing these 40s and we're doing these testing things to be like, man, I can't wait to see this kid do this, comparing him to some of the things we've done as an offense at Blacksburg. It's going to be fun.
Coach, I love watching teams I love watching teams run the ball. Big G likes to spread it out and get speed and space. He's all about that. But
Oh my God. He hasn't done nothing but just tell you a big fat lie, Coach. I'm just going to tell you right now. This guy, they want to see 55 and 60 points a ball game. I'm the guy that likes 3 yards in a cloud of dust. That's me. And when you start throwing that little, what's that thing I hate out there when the receiver goes out here in the flat? And I mean, I cannot stand that pass. It's just like, hey, throw it to him. And I mean, basically, you're putting the guy on an island by himself to get anything he can by himself. Ain't nobody going to block for him. And I can't stand it. I like to see the ball handed off and just let's let our offensive line be the hogs and push people back. I mean, I don't mind to see a pass or two or whatever if you got to, but I mean, are you looking to throw the ball 20, 30 times a game?
I'm a mix. So before I say this, I want to describe my version of balanced. It means effective in both parts of the game. We will never be balanced in what we do. I believe running the football wins high school football games, but I think you have to be effective in both because, and I'll be honest with you, if I was a GW fan, I'd want to see them run the football too. Those guys are big. I think last year that was the biggest high school football team I've ever seen. I would have those guys running it just the way they have as well. But when you're not going to show up and be bigger every single week, you have to take what the defense gives you. Now, we're never going to abandon the run game. I don't, to be completely honest with you, our offense doesn't work if we abandon our run game because we have designed it around power, and everything else we do is to make power work a little bit better. Right. So, we were able to find some ways to take advantage of some situations last year that allowed us to be simple in the pass game, but still be effective. And I think you can expect to see more of the same.
Coach, as a former USA South second teamer there at Ferrum, I think on the defensive side of the ball, how tough are you on that defense? And is that something you mostly call yourself, or you rely on coordinators for that?
Oh, that's a great question. I talk to my kids about this. I think being a leader is not being the type of leader you want to be. It's being what your team needs. And coaching is the same way. So, Blacksburg, it's high school football. I can't pay them enough to say, hey, I'm going to come all the way down to Roanoke and do this thing with you, right? So, it's all about investing in our coaches. 2 offensive coaches followed Nick to Botetourt, and one guy, kind of just a coincidence, was moving to South Carolina already. So we're going to be young and a little bit inexperienced on the offensive side of the ball. I'd say one of my best leaders on staff, probably, the guy I'm going to lean on is going to be our defensive coordinator. And he just brings an energy to it. It's Marcus Williams. He's a big community guy, and he just does anything you need for the program. I'm going to rely on him a whole lot. Eventually, I'm one of the weirdos who tries to get myself out of the play calling situation because I believe in delegation, right? If I can get a guy who starting off is 80% as effective as I am, I'm going to delegate that and I can put my attention on other things. So that's the end game goal. I started with the offensive coordinator at Blacksburg. We kind of transitioned away from him. He got out of coaching and I developed my next one. And last year, the first year that he was calling plays on offense. So, I kind of use that as a little bit of a motivator tool as well. I want to put these guys in positions to be successful and to follow their dreams and chase the jobs they want. So that's kind of my long-term plan. I'll be focusing a little bit more offensively this year.
Coach, I'm gonna let Big G go in a second, but I had to get this off real quick. You're the anti-Billy Napier. I'm a Florida guy, Florida Gator guy. The guy wouldn't let go of the offensive coordinating. It's just you can saw it in his 4 years. So I want to mention that you're the anti-Billy Napier, and I love that.
Well, unmuted me now. I can talk. Thank you, sir. So, Coach, I don't know if I've ever asked this question of any coach, but I'd love to have a headset on the sideline. I love to hear the talk, the trend, the whatever. So when does Coach Leonard let the others speak or let the others take over? And then when do you, if you're up 14-0, you just let things go as is, or, hey, all of a sudden you're down 21-14 to give up 3 straight touchdowns. Is that when you make the final call?
Great question. Develop our system, and it's something like I wish I could say, hey, we've got it completely dialed in. It's something we adjust every once in a while. We try to find what's working for us in the moment, but our guys are giving information constantly. We're creating, and this is the meetings. We just had our first complete defensive staff meeting the other day. And I told those guys, Marcus is the defensive coordinator, but this is our defense, right? Like nothing should be 100% on Marcus. Nothing should be 100% on me even, right? I want us to work together. I want us to all have our stamp on it. So it's constant. Now, the things you would find interesting on the sidelines listening to me is, my demeanor as a head coach. I really, really feel like kids model what we give, right? So when I got to Blacksburg, we talked about it a little bit culturally. We had a group of complainers, right? And sometimes coaches fall into that same respect. So like, you're never going to hear that from me. I model that from our coaches. You're not going to hear me talk about anything we can't control. It's going to always be focused on that next play. Now I'm stealing as much as possible. Again, we lost a lot of close games, right? So I'm trying to steal anything I can to really get dialed in and finish football games. And I stole some stuff from Indiana because that guy is incredible, right? So my mindset is I'm going to find something to keep our kids and give them the edge regardless. We went into a couple games later in the season where we had a little bit of a lead, kind of like you suggested, and I made sure they understand the expectation is for me to pull you off. Now, I'm big about that. I am never going to try to embarrass any football team. And any coach that you've seen that has lost to us can tell you that we're going to substitute. I'm going to use it as a chance to develop other players. Our kids know who I am and know what I expect. One of the proudest moments, let me think, year 2, I just watched the JV games because I want that to be, again, an opportunity for our coaches to develop. So we have different JV coordinators, all that stuff. So I'm just watching it. But the year before, Christiansburg beat the brakes off of our JV team. I'm talking 50 something to 0, right? We show up the next year and my quarterback, we're backed up. We do a read play and he pulls it, gets out of the pocket and is gone. And he takes a knee at the 5-yard line. And it's probably the proudest moment I've had because how many kids want that touchdown? That's the crosstown rival, right? They beat the brakes off of us. But what we teach our kids is we're not here to embarrass other people. We're trying to make our program better every single day.
Coach, I wouldn't let
Where
him
do
get the headset when you guys play GWS for sure. I'll let him go.
where do you draw that line? I mean, that's such a fine line, Coach. I mean, is it like a fourth quarter stand? I mean, did you come up with this, or there's all kinds of unwritten laws or rules to each game or whatever. So where do you draw that line? I mean, is that something that you've learned over the years, or is it something that kind of pops up? Do you look at the scoreboard? Oh, we're up 63-0. So yeah, it's time to do this.
Yeah, it's honestly a feel. One of those things where they say it's more of an art than a science. You know what I mean? But our rule is we start subbing a little slow, right? Get certain guys off the field. Again, that gives them a chance to develop too. So if I take one guy off the field and then everybody else, now our offense, he's not getting a real chance to develop, right? But if I substitute 1 or 2 guys at a time, they're seeing what real football looks like. So I wish I could give you a clean answer. I mean, I know other teams, I respect other teams' philosophies. I think Salem has a hard first half rule. They're never going to substitute first half. They're always going to run the first drive of the second half with their ones. I respect it. You have a rule. I have not set a hard line rule, but I do get why it's important. So we've kind of played with it a little bit. And we've done it well so far. You never want it to come back and bite you, but we've had enough of a good situation where it's worked out well.
Coach, we talked about the out of district play with Verona, GW. I think you guys play Albemarle as well. But I want to talk about the Blue Ridge. I've been a big proponent of the Blue Ridge. It's a really good football district. These guys didn't believe me last year, but they did really well last year. You got Fleming, Bird, Bottot, Northside, Franklin County, Stanton River, who's played in the deep in the playoffs. I think maybe got close to a state championship a couple years ago. Just talk about that conference in general, and then or that district in general, and then talk about the play in there in Roanoke Valley area.
Yeah, I think Blue Ridge District has been on a progression that's made them more and more competitive every year. I mean, you think about 5 years ago, you're probably saying the River Ridge is the more competitive district. And now it's completely flipped on its head. Northside's knocking off big teams, every couple of weeks. And you're like, what a win right there. Bottot's been Bottot. Fleming has been on a great run, which we're looking to continue. The coach over at Bird did a tremendous turnaround there. I mean, you really respect a rebuild that he did. I mean, it's just good football week in, week out. I mean, Stanton River knocked off Fleming 2 years ago, and Fleming was maybe undefeated going into that game. I mean, it's a district where you've got to show up every single week. But man, take it back to Kirk Signetti, and that's what he talks about all the time. Like, anybody can lose if you don't show up with that edge. So I'm really trying to hone in on making sure we're locked in. We do a lot of work on our own on the weekends, and I've got one of our templates that we work through every week. I mean, it's got a Coach Leonard's message of the week. I'm going to find a way to make sure we have an edge going into every single game. You can love people, you can care about them, but in a football game, you better be locked in, focused, and competitive. Or not. If not, anything can happen.
Coach, just a couple more from me. Just talking about the talent there at William Fleming. I'm sure you had to deal with this at Blacksburg too, but as far as recruiting goes, we talked a lot about this recruitment on our podcast and just dealing with the transfer portal and how it's affecting the senior. How are you handling those discussions with some of your players there at Blacksburg and maybe they're now at William Fleming?
So are we talking about college recruitment?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm telling them every day. That's been a big part of my message. Again, coming out of Roanoke City, I think we are an under recruited area at times, and we don't quite always know what it takes to get to that next level. So when these kids graduate, I don't want that to ever be an excuse. I don't want them to be able to say, hey, Coach Leonard didn't tell me what it took. I'm giving them a very clean roadmap. I think if a kid can start at William Fleming for 2 years and have a 3.0 GPA, I think they've got a great chance to go play football and go to school with a financial benefit involved, right? Maybe be able to go play college football with no tuition, right? That's huge. We're in an area that changes people's lives. In my immediate family, I was the first person to go to college, some cousins and stuff like that. But, right there, that immediate family, I mean, it changed my life. And it was really just, I didn't have, but just knowing I was going to go play football is probably the reason I always knew I was going to go to college. So we have to use our tools, make sure they know what the expectations are. And I truly believe we can change a lot of people's lives and send them off and help them be very successful moving forward. So 3.0, 2 years, William Fleming, I think had a great shot.
Coach, one of my last questions. I've made this well known. I'm a huge proponent of the public schools. I just, I hate to see kids, I don't know, not necessarily make bad decisions. I mean, I understand some of the decisions they make to go to some of these private schools and to, take on some of these, high class, I guess you want to call football or basketball schools. But what is the secret, in your opinion, to keeping kids in the public school system?
That's a really good question. I wish I knew the answer, to be honest with you. So, last year, partway into the season, we had a kid transfer to North Cross. This year, we had a kid just transfer to Roanoke Catholic. My focus is always going to be on us, right? I'm going to invest in our players. I'm going to invest in our program. I'm going to make it to where everybody wants to be at William Fleming. And we're going to coach so well that when somebody makes the off choice to leave us, we have depth. We've developed the next guy, and we're ready to roll, right? All I want to worry about is William Fleming football.
Coach, who are some of those players that you're going to have to rely on this year for you guys to get back to the playoffs again?
All of them, right? So that's the thing. We're trying to really push across this mindset of the team aspect of football. When our running game is looking really, really good, people start getting sucked in. Now all of a sudden we've got to be able to take advantage of bubbles, of our power pass off of our play action power pass to get other people in space and get downhill and get those yards. So we're trying to do that mindset, but I think we're going to surprise a lot of people. This is without a doubt, and no knocks against anybody. These are some of the best players I've ever been around talent wise. He goes by J Rob. I mean, he is excited for his opportunity to be that number one running back, and he has to prove it, right? I'm a competition guy, but I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. I think the physicality at our F position, kind of like an H-back, is going to surprise a lot of people. I think we're going to put it together, and people are going to see how our system really can roll when people are doing the right things.
Go ahead, BG.
No, I was just going to say, Gregory always comes up with a question to some of the players and stuff at the end of the conversation about, what are they going to do, this, and this. So I'll just hand it to you this time, Coach. So what is Coach's pregame meal, and then after the big win, where does Coach go on Friday night? I guess now in Roanoke.
That's a good question. So pregame meal, we always spend it together. I'm trying to set up a situation where the whole team is sitting down and eating. Some teams can kind of feel like they're in a rush after school. I don't want that feeling as much as possible. There is a time crunch, but I want us to kind of enjoy that togetherness. I try to get set up some type of pasta chicken combo. Last year we were very lucky. I'll shout them out. Avellino's in Blacksburg really took really good care of us. We were very lucky. Great company, great people to work with. After the game, I go home to my wife. But that drive to her is going to be a lot shorter, so I'm excited.
And Coach, last one for me. William Fleming has a successful season if they do what?
Come together as a football team. I really think we have the pieces, right? All it is execution. If we can get these guys, caring so much about the person beside them that they're willing to ignore the little things that can happen in a football game. Everybody knows teams can be mouthy. It's a competition. Everybody knows things goes wrong. But here's the real answer. If we handle adversity, we're going to be a really good football team.
Hey, I got to go one step further, Coach. What's the first win at Fleming? Do you dance? Do you sing? What happens?
I don't know. I'm kind of a spontaneous person. I don't think anybody definitely, but it's going to be exciting. I can't wait to get it.
Well, Coach, we can't thank you enough for coming on here today. I know we talked your ears off and talked a lot about your career and what to expect there at Fleming. We wish you guys the best of luck. We'll be there in person for that game. I think was it October 2nd there in Danville. We'll look forward to seeing you in person. Maybe talk to you after the game and stuff like that. So, Coach Zack Leonard there at William Fleming. Coach, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.